Warning, the following audio transmission is based on theory and is intended for entertainment purposes only. It's Doomsday and its affiliates will not be held liable for anything your dumbass does. Listener discretion is advised.
Welcome, everybody, to It's Doomsday podcast. Today is November 27, 2022. Time is 18:01, and joining me, as always, is Al, a.k.a. Big Daddy Prep. What's going on, man?
Just a long weekend, Jester. This nice Thanksgiving weekend. I hope everybody had a great Thanksgiving weekend. It's been a long one. The weather here has kind of been drabby, but hope everybody had a good week.
Al, I got to tell you, this whole Thanksgiving week has screwed me up royally. I lost the whole day. I kept thinking yesterday was Sunday the whole day. It was just really weird and screwed up.
Yep, it has been for me too. Believe me.
I'm just trying to get back into the swing of things, and it's pretty difficult to do. And I know Monday's going to be nuts with everybody doing Cyber Monday shopping online, and I know for a lot of people they have that day off as well, so they're going to be out and about. But it's crazy right now, man. Everything's been nuts. I'm ready for the holidays to be over. It is.
This whole week has been like trying to shove 10 gallons in a 5-gallon bucket. It's exactly the way it has been. And nothing's been right. And it has to do with the world. The world right now is in a crazy, horrible, screwed up place. It really is. It's not just you and I. It's everything.
Right, and I 100% agree with that, which kind of pulls us into our topic tonight, which is the breaking point. So, guys, we're going to come at you a little bit differently. Typically, we tell you guys, how to prep, what could go wrong, survival product situations, things you guys need to do to get ready for whatever's coming. And a lot of people out there kind of give a little bit of backlash, saying nothing's coming, everything's going to be fine. And I think that's kind of what we need to put to bed tonight. Not everything's going to be fine. Something's definitely coming.
Yeah, not everything's good. I promise you, not everything is good.
Oh yeah. Well, so the whole point tonight was to get into some of these wild scenarios and situations that could make everything fall apart. And I think the first thing, Al, that we should start with is possibly the government and what's going on.
Absolutely. The government being in the situation that it is right now, where it is absolutely useless to itself and to us in general. The government's supposed to do certain things, Jester, and it's not doing those things. It's not functional, whether or not it's one side arguing or the other side arguing, or when it's like it is right now, where it's kind of a 50-50 mix and nobody can.
Right. And that's the one thing I want to say about the government. Guys, they are creating these chaotic stages. They're creating this big separation and divide. I've seen so many people jump back on the Trump train or the Let's Go Brandon train. I'm watching all these people jump back on board with this and get fired up again. It seemed like it just calmed down to where you weren't seeing too much of this separation and too much of this divide. But if Trump runs for election again, which he said he is, we're going to see a lot of chaos. We're going to see a lot of things break bad. We're already at each other's throats as it is with everything that's going on. But I got to tell you what, the government likes this situation. They like the divide. They want this chaos because as long as you and I are arguing amongst each other about politics, we're not looking at the government holding them accountable for anything. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. That's the whole thing right there, Jester. People don't understand, and I'm not trying to preach to anybody, and I'm certainly not trying to dispel my beliefs on anyone else. But I will say this, and this goes for either side that you're on, or if you're dead in the middle. One side wants this, the other side wants the other. Nobody wants to give or take any, and those that are in the middle are just absolutely collateral damage, and that's what we've become. They want your money. They want your time, they want your commitment, but yet nothing in return. And when I say nothing in return, literally our government is giving us nothing in return at this point. We're pretty much looking at now a lame duck president for another 2 years, whether you want to admit it or not, whether you're left or right, whether you're Democrat, Republican, Independent, makes no difference. We have a lame duck Congress now. We have pretty much a lame duck president, and we're going to be like this until the next election. And for the next 2 years, while we're working up to this election, it is going to be an utter shit show and fireworks every stinking day. This, in turn, is going to get people worked up. As we used to say in prison, yeast it up. This is going to get people worked up. Don't get so worked up that you fall for, well, things that are out there, because there are a lot of traps and pitfalls out there that are set up on purpose to catch you. So be very careful who you line yourself.
Oh no, 100%. So that's the one side of this, guys. We've watched the separation, we've watched this divide, we watched this nation fall apart during the pandemic. We've seen the shortages, and we've saw how well the US government has handled this. Okay. And for our listeners out there around the world, I want to say that this is an episode that's primarily for the US and not the entire world with the things we're going to be talking about. So I want to get into the next part of this, the shortages, Al. We've talked about shortages many times on this show. We're going through this diesel crisis. They keep talking and bringing back up the railroads. They keep bringing up all these things that could stop the supply chain, right?
Yeah.
And if they fuck this diesel up and if they do that and trucks aren't moving, everybody's going to starve. I mean,
You're right. You're right, Jester. You're right. But there's a point there about the diesel. The diesel runs the trains and the diesel runs the trucks, both. The listeners out there, a lot of them don't understand that diesel runs both. So it's not just like diesel for construction trucks. So you won't be able to go out and do a job. I hear liberals say all the time. You won't be able to go out and take your big nasty truck and go do jobs. So what? Yeah, it's going to affect everybody in this web of supplies. Everybody, from the trains all the way to the
right now, let's dive into that a little bit. All the things that are affected by this. So yes, the trains, yes, the trucks. Let's not forget the boats on the rivers that push coal up and down the river. Those are all diesel that are going to the power plants. Okay. Then, if you want to get deeper into it, if diesel would just altogether be gone, you're not going to be able to even mine fossil fuels because all that equipment's ran off diesel.
Right.
You're not even going to have a power grid at that point.
I heard an interesting thing today, Jester, that I did not realize, and I had not taken part in some of these discussions in the past. I had listened to some folks today, and they said one train car, what is carried in that train car is equivalent to about 10 tractor trailer box trucks. So let's just take that and think about it. For every car on a train that you see that's a box car, that's 10 train trucks. 10 trucks that would go up and down the semi. Semis go up and down the road. Think about how much goods that is. And people say, well, don't worry if we don't use trains. If they don't come to an agreement, we'll just put it on the road. No, you won't. There's not that many trucks on the road. And at this point, we're already stifled with that. So, yeah, we're looking at major, major supply chain issues, even bigger than we had last year.
Well, let's not forget, too, that I think some of the people that are saying that are maybe people that they're not out on the road all the time. Number one, there's tons of trucking companies out there hiring. They can't get enough people, right? And then the other thing is there's so many trucks on the road already. I see these guys backed out of truck stops at night. The truck stops are always full at night. I mean, it's not just about getting food to the grocery stores. This is everything is moved on trucks. Al, our restaurant couldn't function if we didn't get a weekly delivery from a semi truck.
Right. And most of your grocers and your big box stores, they look like they have a lot of things in it. But when it comes to basic supplies, they have about 24 to 48 hours worth of supply. If they're not replenished in 48 hours, they're not going to have basic supplies. Then everything else starts to run out behind that. So, yeah, it's a major grid issue here. And there's so many things culminating at one time: the diesel shortage, the high price of fuel, the possibility of shutting down of the rail lines because of the railroad workers strike. There's so many things right now just in that one section that's causing this. So, but that kind of leads into the food thing that I made a few notes here for things that are problem engineered, and this kind of plays in with the diesel and everything, kind of plays into the engineer of the food supplies. We've seen our food supply over the last 6 months be diminished in great amounts by fires and just strange events that are taking food out of the supply chain.
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
Right. Yeah, and so we've covered a lot with the supply chain on the show before, and I mean it's something that's very crucial, guys. That it's something that I feel like at any moment it could just crash and burn or it could break. It's a very fragile thing. And Al's right. These little instances and disasters and things that are happening, they don't seem like they create that big of an impact, but there is this ripple effect that happens with these things.
It's a definite ripple effect. Just like that pebble hitting the water, it's a huge ripple effect sometimes. It's just something small can happen to cause a huge.
Right. So now let's kind of piggyback off this situation. So we could possibly see a lot get disrupted with the supply chain with the diesel and everything else. All right. Then we also have this conflict with Russia and Ukraine that I've been seeing less of in the media, but that doesn't mean the situation has stopped. In fact, I think it's a situation where they want to get us into another forever war so they can keep funneling money to a different region. And not only that, but with the new election coming, conflict's a good thing around election time.
Absolutely.
Right.
And a lot of the money and a lot of the support for Ukraine and the money that's been funneled, yes, it was a big thing in the news in the very beginning, but now it's being very quiet, but it's still being funneled. Millions of dollars a day are being sent to Ukraine. Whether you see it on the news or not, it is still happening. But just like this huge FTX scandal that happened the other day, we're finding out now money that was sent to Ukraine was actually funneled back into the United States through investments that Ukraine and Zelensky were making. So that money's being funneled back. So there's a lot of things here, and people are getting mad. I talk to people all the time, and they're very upset with the amount of support that we're giving Ukraine. That's virtually unchecked. And you ask, where did the checks go? Where did the money go? Nobody knows. Nobody knows.
Right. And that's a big thing too. And what I've been hearing is that a lot of this money is basically just being put in the politicians' pockets.
Yes.
Is where this is going. It's not going to the war effort. It's not going to the troops. It's not going to the families. It's literally lining the pockets of the politicians there.
Right. They're in here both. It's on both sides. Yeah.
So this is what I see happening. All right. So say this war goes on and eventually we get to the point where money is not enough to help them. They need physical supplies. We need to send food and groceries and bottled water and, toilet paper or whatever else they could think of that we need to start sending over there. Right. Thus diminishing the supplies we have in the US.
Right.
Okay.
What about heating oil and gas and things like that? Because Jester, they bought and got a lot of their heating oil and things like that from Russia. They don't get that anymore. With the Nord Stream pipeline cut off now, a lot of Europe's the same way. So yeah, we're going to be feeding this war on a couple fronts.
Not to get too conspiracy on this, Al, but I mean, could you imagine if they said, hey, there's just no more fuel here. We had to send it all over to Ukraine. And guess what? You need to go get that electric car tomorrow.
Well, that's their end goal by 2030. But now I heard it's 2027. Now they're moving the goal back a little bit more. Their goal's coming towards us a little faster now. I think that's the goal. Unfortunately, if we don't change some major things in politics, your car is going to be virtually put out of commission. You're not going to be able to buy fuel or things for it unless you have that nice shiny little electric car, which I'm not buying. So, I'll be the
No,
last
and
one.
no, I'm avoiding the electric cars at all costs, and I know there's this big, everybody's, on this go green thing, and they think some of this is a conspiracy, and I gotta tell you guys, a lot of it is a freaking conspiracy. A lot of it is. There's no savings in fossil fuels producing these cars, hooking them up to the power grid that's running on fossil fuels. I mean, it's a gimmick. It's a way for them to keep moving product, keep the economy stimulated, a way to sell cars, keep people employed. It's a gimmick. It's a scam.
I agree with you. And you brought up a couple topics. I've got a hot one here that you're going to love that has to do with this all crashing down at one time. What about our travel? You're going to see this happen in the next little while where your travel is going to be virtually restricted because according to what I'm understanding the other day, that we've basically, as the United States, through the president, have negotiated to put what is a COVID passport across the world. You're not going to be able to travel the world without a quote unquote COVID type passport. So your travel and your ability to go places is fixing to be stifled very.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that's something that I mean, they've talked about a lot. And I mean, just think about how that could slow business down. I mean, buddy of mine, I don't want to say exactly what he does or what his name is, but he is getting in with a company that does cargo and had to get the jab to get the job. Okay. But you have a lot of people that are walking away from things because they don't want to do that. They're still not getting on board with this. Even with all the evidence of this isn't doing anything, there's companies that are still pushing this, and it really makes you wonder why.
Well,
Okay.
what they're wanting to do is restrict the travel of people across the world. Goods will still be moving back and forth, but they're trying to keep people from being able to move. If eventually they can move you from going, if they say, Jester, you can't go to Greece next year unless you have this certain thing, and you're not going to get that, then you're not going to be able to travel. But what says that when they say you can't go to Greece? Well, if they say, well, now you can't go to Canada, Jester, because, I know it's in the same continent, but now we can't let you go there. Well, we can't let you go to Arkansas now. I see restrictive measures starting out very big and then restricting down tighter and tighter and tighter. That's what scares me. I don't want to go to Tanzania myself personally right now, but if I did want to go, I want to know that I could go pay my money and go. That scares me because it could eventually say I can't go to Missouri from Arkansas.
I could see this happening though, where they do restrict the travel. And I got to tell you what, I'll get out of the country one way or the other, and just out pick me up at the southern border because they're not watching
Yeah.
that one. I'll get
You're
back
right.
in.
They're not watching that one at all. That's what gets me is when they say that you can't go here, can't go there, but yet there are people coming here every single day, and that bothers me.
So let's talk about this for a second. Another part of this that could bring something bad. So it's all the border crisis is always talked about. All right. The influx of people that have came in during the current administration is unreal. All right. To the point where they don't know where to put these kids
Right.
that are getting separated from their families. Like the foster care systems are getting sucked up. Foster parents are needed like everywhere now because of all these children that are coming in that they don't know what to do with. Now imagine a situation where, and I'm not saying this would shut down the whole country, but depending on where you're at, it very well could. So say that you get a lot of illegal immigrants coming in to a certain town. What are they going to do? They're going to be utilizing up the local supplies from your grocery stores, from your Walmart, this, that, the other. If the supplies get cut off to that area for a brief period of time and they can't resupply quick enough, you get what I'm saying now? Like they're going to deplete their supplies even faster with all these extra people that they have.
Absolutely.
And these people, and here's the thing, these people aren't on the census. The census takers aren't going out knocking on illegals' doors. If they don't know they're there, they don't know to count these people. They have no idea.
Right. And not only that, but just to understand that, and I'm not being racist or I'm not being xenophobic or anything else like that. I'm saying people in other countries don't do and act like we do. Here in America, if we have a shortage, we gripe about a lot of things, but we usually just get over it and go on. We've had a higher standard of living. A lot of people that are coming from countries that have lower standards of living, if there's no bread, they're willing to take yours. that's a crime increase. We're seeing crime increase all over the country like crazy now. Crime is a huge statistic. We actually have, we had a record year in like 1993 here in Little Rock, Arkansas, with 70 murders. We've surpassed that by the first day of November this year. So that means crime is everywhere, and it's getting only worse. Even in the middle of the country, on the coast, it makes no difference. So you can't tell me that some of that crime is not from people that are undocumented coming in the country. There's just too many stories about it every day for it to be a fallacy.
No, I totally get it. Now, here's the other thing, guys. Let's talk about the idea of potential. All right, so we know the southern border is not being secured the way it should be. Okay, it's becoming a bigger problem. We can't vet the people that are coming in. Okay, so imagine if some terrorists got the idea to start sneaking things in through that southern border,
It's happened in the
and
past.
how detrimental that could be. How detrimental that could be for us.
Right, right. I mean, what if, let's just use the what if. What if only 0.1% of those people that are coming into this country are those that would have nefarious backgrounds? Let's say that they could be terrorists or criminals that may rob or rape. Just 0.1%. Well, last year we understand that we were close to 2 billion people coming across the southern border. So start doing the math there and see exactly how many people that possibly is that could cause us problems. Even if it was a couple thousand murderers or terrorists in the country, how many terrorists do you have to have before you have too many? So yes, it's a huge problem, and it's definitely going to take more of a hold in the next year. It's a huge problem. Our southern border is
Right, and it is something, it is something that I think could bring about, a lot of chaos in this country. Could it be this like horrible doomsday situation? No, but it is one more thing. It's one more thing putting a crack in the ice, folks. That's what it's doing. And the whole point of the show is to just, where are we at? Where do we stand now? How much time do we have left? When we at the last year we said what was coming in this next year, and we speculated on a few things to happen, and we've seen some crazy stuff, but it seemed like things got a little bit better. And it seems like things are starting to level off in some areas, but in other areas they're getting worse. Here's the other thing. People right now, and this is something that I've been discovering more and more lately, people are becoming horrible to one another. I'm talking mean, nasty, just very, very shitty to one another. And I know you guys are out there thinking, well, Jester, what's that mean for a doomsday situation? What's that got to do with anything? Well, it's the idea, if these people are willing to, push you out of the way now when things aren't bad in the middle of the grocery store to get what they want, imagine when they're starving, how these people are going to be reacting and how you're going to be treated. The most dangerous thing in a doomsday scenario is going to be the other people around you. All
I
right.
agree totally.
That's the big thing.
Totally. Totally. People's ability to get along and do for each other has greatly been diminished. But let me say this. We've had a media, a government, and social media that have told us for the last 5 years that everybody is divided. Nobody is together. They have divided us by race, age, ethnicity, area of the country, your belief on this, your belief on that. They've got everybody thinking that everybody's out to hate you or do bad for you. Now, whether that's true or not, that makes you look at people in another way. That's the reason why people are so crappy to each other nowadays, and people treat each other so badly nowadays, because they feel like if I don't take advantage, you're going to take advantage. The good old days of America where we actually stuck together and did right, it's still there, but they're just telling us that we're not those kind of people anymore. And then that's bad.
All right. So the next thing I wanted to get into with this too, guys, is we're being molded into conformity, right?
Right.
Specifically through different social media platforms. And the big one that comes to mind for me is TikTok. I'm watching the dumbing down of society through these online social platforms. I'm watching them train us how to conform and stay in line and not get out of line, right? And a good
Right.
example for this, guys, is if you talk about the election on social media, if you talk about the jab on social media, and I don't really care what platform you're on. We all remember being in Facebook jail. Okay, we all been in Twitter jail. We've seen accounts get shut down, right? Freedom to speak out against the establishment is something that they do not want. We are being trained right now to conform pretty much through every social media avenue out there, right? And we are being taught what to think, what to believe. It's all suggested that we all drink the same Kool-Aid together, guys, and it's going to be great.
Right. Exactly. This is the model of what the Chinese Communist Party have actually instituted in China, which is the social credit score. We are going through a slow and arduous, we're on the treadmill just like they are in China. But Jester, let me tell you something. What started out as a Chinese social credit score is exactly what's happening here. It didn't happen to them overnight. It progressed faster than it is here, but we've been a free society where they weren't. It's going to happen here. They basically training you on what you can say and what you can't, and you're like, oh, can't say that. I'll get kicked off of so and so. That's training. Can't do this. Oh, this person got in jail, so they can't see their friends today, so I better not do that. That's all training, folks, and that's exactly what's happening. But I don't know if you've seen it for the last few days, some video that's been coming out of China. But, Jester, the Chinese people we thought would just, they'd never revolt or they'd never rebel. If you watch underground media nowadays, you'll see that people all over the world think the same way, and the Chinese are starting to revolt against their government too. So, yeah, there is hope.
No, so I want to throw something out to all of our listeners out there, guys. I'm going to tell you what, I am no longer going to be advertising the TikTok channels on this show that Al and I have. Just because I'm fed up with it, guys. If you want to find us and you want to interact with us on social media now, I'm going to be spending pretty much most of my time on Clapper now.
Me too. Me
Right.
too. Me too. The handle's the
And if you
same.
guys,
Same on Clapper as it was on TikTok. And I'm with you. I'm no longer advertising anything about TikTok anymore. And I'm not going to do it on my show anymore either. My show either. I'm done with TikTok.
no. So here's the thing, guys, and I'm gonna throw this out there for you. If you add me on Clapper, just add It's Doomsday Podcast on Clapper. Al's on there at big_daddy_prep on Clapper. I have a group on there, okay, where you guys can come in and ask to join the group and you can communicate with me in real time. I'm not trying to have thousands of people in there because I know it'll get chaotic. But if you're someone who's really into the show and you're someone that really wants to communicate and see what's going on, ask to join the group. It's called Doomer Fam on there. You guys can come in, you could chit chat, and everybody shares stories and information. It's a good little group chat to be in. All right. We are going to limit the amount of people that are going to be in there, though. So if you want to get in there quick. That's all. But yeah, so on that note, Al, yeah, it's done with TikTok, putting it in the show notes, putting it out there for everybody to come find us. Guys, just Clapper's where it's at. It's more or less an adult-free version of TikTok is pretty much what it is. So you guys are still going to get video content. You're still going to get show updates. You're still going to get things like that, but not going to be on TikTok.
Let me say this about this, and I won't say let me say this, and I won't say another word about TikTok again. Folks, Here's the thing. If you're the kind of person that doesn't believe in censorship and believes in your First Amendment right, you can no longer support TikTok. I don't mean you have to turn off your account or whatever like that. I'm not adding anything else. But because I'm a butthole, I'm not turning mine off. I'm just not going to add any more to it. But I will say this much. If you think the First Amendment means something, you need to look at whether or not what you're doing with TikTok. Point blank. They're censoring everything you say and do. So
right. And for me, I mean, I'm more or less done posting new content. I might post some updates about the show or clips just because I know there's people there that want to know what's going on. And I know they're not going to make the leap or the jump. But as far as any survival content, talking about anything, I am done. It's not going to happen anymore. The next thing I did want to get into with this, Sal, I am looking for a big gun grab to happen soon, or a big change within the laws to push more into disarming Americans. And
yes, sir.
we see an attack on gun rights every year. We see an attack on the Second Amendment. It's something that we're always seeing. It's never going to change. They're going to keep trying to institute more rules, more laws, more bullshit. So I could tell you what, I carry a gun pretty much everywhere I go. I'm staring at one right now. And here's the thing. I have this as that last line of defense in case I would need to protect myself or protect my family from immediate harm or death, right? So why have it? But it's getting to the point now where I would be terrified to defend myself just because of the repercussions of what we're seeing the courts do to people around the world, around the country.
I agree with you. And Jester, I'm going to say this about the Second Amendment. I think there's going to be a huge gun grab. I see that coming. And if you'll notice, the 3 months before the midterm elections was very few mass shootings. As soon as the midterms hit, as soon as you dropped your vote, they all of a sudden started. That tells you right there that some of these things are engineered and they are coming for your guns. They're being more vocal now. If you'll watch, you'll listen to politicians, especially those on the left that got reelected or put in office. They are telling you exactly what they plan on doing. They're coming after your guns. I even heard it come out of the president's mouth the other day. They're coming after a semi-automatic assault weapons ban. When they go after one, they will go after all, folks. It's not, they don't just go after one thing, go, oh, we've had enough now, that's all we're going to do. No, it's not like that. I figure guns will double in price by summertime. So if you plan on buying any, you need to do it right now. That's just me. It's my advice.
Right. And I recently just went out and picked up a new Glock that I haven't shot yet, but I'm gonna get there hopefully next week and get out and do some shooting. But the reason I think the gun thing could be part of this crack in the ice breaking point is because the more Americans you disarm, the more criminals can go and take advantage and create crime with nobody to stop them. And they know this, right?
Absolutely.
They absolutely know if you don't have a firearm, you are vulnerable. It is
Absolutely.
a thing. It is what happens. So to me, if we see a big gun grab, we're going to see crime skyrocket. And if it's a situation where there's food shortages or, money's low, this, that, the other, we're going to watch that be an even higher hike in crime because there's not going to be anybody to stop anybody.
I agree with you. And this is the whole thing we've preached forever. We preach all kinds of ways of survival tactics. We've always said security. I made a list of the things that I thought was part of what we were discussing tonight, and security was on top of the list because your personal security is something you can't negotiate. You have to have personal security. I believe when this gun grab comes, you're going to see crime. Crime's already skyrocketing, but you're really going to see crime go off the charts then, because a lot of people are going to give up their guns when they're threatened or their job or their whatever's threatened. They're going to give up those guns. Some of us aren't, but the ones that do, yeah, you're going to become victims. So you're going to go from gun owner American to victim real quick.
Right. I couldn't agree more with you, Al. So one other thing I wanted to get into, and then let me know what you got on your list, Al. But the one thing I did want to get into and talk about is the work ethic in the drive within people, this work ethic. Al, I've noticed this get so bad. So many companies are short staffed. So many people, they're so backed up with orders to go out, and like fast food restaurants can't keep people. We're having problems trying to get people at our restaurant. There's a big loss in work ethic and drive for people to go out and get and secure a job. And with this slows down goods and services, which another crack in the ice could cause major problems down the road.
Yeah, the work ethic is basically gone ever since everyone took basically a 2-year hiatus, or a lot of people took a 2-year hiatus from their job, or they were only on part-time or homework or all these other the things that they created during the pandemic. Yeah, people don't want to go to work, and those that are going to work aren't working as hard. They know they don't have to. People were financially taken care of when they weren't working, so it kind of killed the work ethic. Um, I can go every single day out and do jobs like I do and go all over the state, and I could literally have a job in any stinking town I went to, anywhere, almost any company I go to work for, I'll be like, "Hey, you hiring? Yeah. You want a job? No, no. I'm just asking for a friend." So what's what I say. No one says, "Oh, I have too many employees. I laid off some last week because I got too many." Nobody, zero. From restaurants to major industrial, heavy industrial plants, nobody has too.
Right. No, I know, and I mean that's a thing. And so let's get into this too, though. This turnover rate that we're seeing with the employment. Companies aren't treating people as good as they used to be, and that's also killing the work ethic.
Yeah,
Right.
because people know that if you don't treat me right, or if I don't perceive you treat me right, I can go across the street and get a job paying me $1 an hour or more, or $2 an hour or more, because they've already told me. Yeah, you're going to see employers now that are actually out headhunting other employers to take their staff from them. As soon as the place goes down and they think they have a good employee they want to hire, they'll go headhunt them because nobody wants to work. And I mean, can't I can't blame them for trying to fill their job needs, but a lot of people are headhunting from other employers. They'll go and say, "How much is he paying you? $15 an hour? I give you $17.50. I give you a take home truck." I've seen that happen.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
there's
I've
actual
seen it happen too, Al.
cannibalism and headhunting in the employer business. It's happening all the time, but the thing is, the pool of people that actually can do real jobs, I mean, skilled labor, not college labor, skilled labor like plumbers, electricians, mechanics, people that can fix things that are in the construction industry. Those trades are off the charts now because there's fewer and fewer people every year that can do them, and people aren't going out and learning how to do them. So yeah, those trades are going to be huge in the next 2 or 3 years. If you know how to plumb, if you know how to go out and run electrical conduit or do whatever you need to do, you're going to have a job, I assure you, and you'll be able to pretty much name your price.
Hey preppers, do you want 10% off survival food? Go to www.readywise.com and use code DOOM10 at checkout for 10% off all your survival food needs. Again, that's code DOOM10 at checkout at readywise.com, DOOM10 for 10% off at readywise.com.
Right, exactly, 100%. So, Al, what else you got on your list, bud?
Physical health. Your physical health and the health of the country is in real jeopardy right now, and that's putting a lot of people in a bad way. You know, during the COVID lockdowns, when people were basically told that you had to take the jab or you had to do this or do that, it got people worrying about whether or not they were going to have a job, and people started worrying about, well, what does my health have to do with what I do? And it's affecting a lot of things out there. I look at items that affect multiple things. Your health also is bothering how much you can travel. We talked about that earlier. Your health is whether or not you took a jab, whether or not you can have this job or that job, or you can move. So physical health has a lot to do with things. Now it's putting a lot of pressure on people. I hear people talk about it all the time. Well, what if they come back with the mandates again? We hear about the mandates. The mandates loom over people like a bad nightmare, and that's putting a lot of pressure on people. But one of the things that I also had on my list was rights. Your rights, whether it be your First Amendment, your Second Amendment, your Fourth Amendment, all your rights are being infringed upon in one frame or another. One way or another, they're being infringed upon. That's a big issue for me. I feel like the Constitution is, well, there's a war on the Constitution right now. I feel like that it's embattled right now, to say the least.
Oh, I don't disagree with you at all. And I mean that's the other thing, guys, is I mean we're watching freedoms being taken away. We kind of brought this up with the whole, banning of TikTok thing, but there's rights and freedoms you have now that you don't realize you have because nobody's taken them away from you yet. Just wait till you can't run your mouth in public about the current administration. Just wait until they say that that's a crime and you go to jail for telling the cashier at Walmart, "I don't like the current president. He's a dumbass." Off to jail you go.
It
Because
it's
in some
coming.
countries, you can't do that
Yep,
shit.
it's coming. If you'll notice over the last, if you take 5 years ago till now, and you look at what you could say then and where you could say it, it's completely different. 5 years ago, you could say anything you wanted to, as long as you didn't say I was going to kill the president. I remember as a child being people being completely scared. Don't ever say that. For God's sakes, don't ever say you would kill the president. The FBI be knocking on your door by morning. And it was true. Now you can say that and nobody seems to worry about it. But you can't say anything derogatory or anything even perceived to be derogatory about another person. I mean, for God's sakes, don't say anything about anyone of Jewish descent. Don't say anything about anyone that's the LGBTQ community. Don't say anything about that. It doesn't make any difference if you're not saying anything bad or not. Just saying something that's not glowing about another person now can actually lead to you being deplatformed, charged, doxxed. Have you ever been doxxed where people will tell exactly where you live at so people can come, you know, create problems at your home or your work? The world's going crazy now, and your rights are definitely under attack. If you don't think so, just try to do some of the things you did 5 years ago. You'll figure out real quick that it's not that easy.
So this, I don't think that this is something I concerning at the moment, but it is a concern. So we've talked about losing the rights. We talked about the work ethic. What are we going to do when we can't put people in the prisons anymore, Al? Or the prison starts shutting down and people hit the streets?
Well, if a lot of the left and a lot of those people living on the coasts, on each coast, the East Coast and the West Coast, and those left leaning areas, and I know not everybody there is like that, believe me, but if they have it their way, we'll have we'll have basically cashless bail all over the country where basically you go to jail and you get out and you don't have to pay to get out of jail. That'll be nationwide. Pretty soon there'll be certain crimes that will not be prisonable offenses. It just will be like that. It's going to happen where, it's going to be that way. It's coming. And I eventually see where a lot of crimes that people are locked up and incarcerated right now for will be released. There'll be mass releases of inmates from prison for certain charges. It's happened before in the past. If you don't think it has, do your research, folks, because I'm going to tell you something. I know the state of Florida years ago let a lot of people out. They decided that certain crimes were not crimes due to the fact they had overcrowding. They started letting certain crimes out, and if you had a certain crime criteria, yep, they let you out. You got out early. So it happens, folks. The prisons will eventually be a place that only certain crimes go to. Fact.
Yeah, and I mean you got to think, dude. That's a very scary thing to think about. The fact that people would just be getting cut loose, and and you got to think about it in a doomsday scenario, whether it's a disaster, a nuke gets dropped, any of these things. I mean, Al, I know that they have a plan for these inmates, but at what point do the COs and the detention deputies decide, hey, we're going home, we're going to be with our families, I'm not staying here?
It's happened. It happened during Hurricane Katrina. It happened.
And so what at that point happens to those inmates? Do they just let them all free? Like, hey guys, see you later, doors open, have fun.
Well, it's not highly talked about, but there were deaths that happened in jails and prisons in Louisiana during Katrina that people don't want to talk about. But there were people that were left behind. People simply walked off the job. It happened. I mean, you have to dig for it, but it happened. You'd have to dig for the news, but it happened. That's a fact.
So we got a few minutes left here. One thing I did want to get into was the price hikes, and I think this is the biggest thing of this breaking point of creating a really bad situation.
Right.
I'm looking for this market to come crashing down. We're seeing everything increase and inflate in price, but we're not seeing incomes increase. We're not seeing fixed income increase. If you're on Social Security, you're on disability, that shit's not moving.
No, it's not.
But all these other prices are moving. So I look for a lot of things to happen, a lot of repossessions of vehicles, homes being foreclosed on, people's jobs getting shut down because people aren't going to be out spending money at certain places. That's what I look for to happen. Okay. And with that being said, Al, what are your thoughts on that? That's going to be the last thing we cover. What are your thoughts on this financial side of things?
Yeah, I think what you're going to see is you're going to see inflation go off the rocker, and then on top of it, this shrinkflation. I mean, the can of beans you used to get was 15 ounces for $1. Now it's 12 ounces, so that's a real thing. But as far as the inflation itself, it's absolutely going to go off the charts here. People are making $300 a week, we'll just say, and they used to could live and they could put $75 away. Now they can't put $7 away, so that makes people mad. That of course that's going to continue on, Jester. It's not going to get any better. And unfortunately, what's going to happen is people are going to make $300 a week, and they're going to have to spend $350 just to live, and that's even worse. I mean, that's people are actually going to have to decide: do they want to put fuel in their vehicle? Do they want to turn the power on? Do they want to eat? What do they want to do today? And that causes a lot of grief for.
No, it absolutely does, and that's what I mean when I say that, I think the financial side of this is gonna be a very big breaking point, another crack in the ice that's just gonna put us into downward spiral chaos, right?
Absolutely.
And I don't understand how people are affording to go out and buy an $80,000 truck, a $500,000 house when they're not making the money to back it up. I'm not getting
The
it
same
at all.
house, Jester, now that's $250,000 with $125,000 10 years ago. I'm looking at vehicles now that I go and I see, and I'm not buying any of them. Don't get me wrong now, but the same vehicles back when I was younger were $35,000 and $40,000 are now $109,000. How can you possibly do that with your money buying less, the price going up, and nothing getting cheaper, and then worrying about listen, this is all a mix for a disaster that's coming. I mean, folks, I hate to tell you this, but I'm always one that tries to tell you about the bad side of things because I want you to hear it. But we've not seen the bad side of things yet. This financial situation that we're in America and in the world, it's not just America, it's the world, is not going to get any better. Too many markers have been set forth out there that have made it tougher and tougher to make it. And it's not just for us. It's not just the regular, everyday blue collar people. People that make less money than us are in bad shape. People that are, middle class, upper middle class, even those that are not the ultra rich, they're just fairly well off. They're feeling the crunch too. $1 million is not a lot of money anymore, Jester. Used to, when I was a kid, $1 million was this huge amount of money. Now $1 million is not that much. So
No, and I get it. And guys, on that note, we're out of here. Everybody that came in and downloaded this show, guys, thank you for listening. The email, it's doomsdaypodcast@gmail.com. Reach out to Al and I if you got any show topic ideas or you just want to throw something out there maybe that you need to hear us talk about in the show.
right. And I want to tell everybody, I'm sorry. It's been a crazy week, and I'm sorry that my quality is not as good today, but my wife's been very sick with the flu this week, and I'm trying to take care of her and live up to my commitments too, which I always do. So I want to make sure that everybody understands that if I'm not up to par this week, it's fine. I'll be back to my normal next week, but I hope everybody has a great week and get back out there again because you've had a few days off, damn it. Get back to work.
This is an emergency action message. At approximately 1 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time, NORAD is tracking 15 ICBM nuclear missiles inbound to the following cities: Orlando, Miami, Pittsburgh, Dover, Newark, Richland, Philadelphia, New York City, Baltimore, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Boston, Seattle, Detroit. This is an extremely deadly situation. Stay tuned. The next emergency message will be a presidential address.